Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Mastering Midlife, How to Thrive When the World Asks the Most of You. I am your host, Mark Silverman. Today, I have a woman that I have chased all over LinkedIn for months to get on my program. Her name is Karen Sands. She's a visionary game changer. She's a gerofuturist, which we're going to find out what the heck that is in a couple minutes, on the longevity, economy, business, the business of aging, ageless aging. Like everything she talks about is reinvention and how do we age and stay vibrant and stay connected. She's written books like Gray is the New Green, The Ageless Way, Visionaries Have Wrinkles, and she's all over LinkedIn, which will put her information in the show notes so you can contact with her. But like I said, I chased you to be on the show. Thank you for being here.
It's absolutely my joy.
The reason I wanted you on the show is because when I first started thinking about this Mastering Midlife focus for myself, it was going to be a book. And then when it became a podcast, I started noticing things out in the world. And I noticed you right away on LinkedIn. Your articles would start popping up in my feed, and you were saying things that I wanted to say to people. You were already doing what it is I'm looking to do. And you've been doing it for quite a while, as you showed me some of your old book covers and stuff like that. So where I want to start is you talk about radically reinventing growing older. What does that mean for you?
Well, I think we should first find what reinvention means. There was an article, I don't know, maybe about 2 years ago, of Mark Friedman, who started Encore, which is, what are you going to do for nonprofits to give back after you retire? That's what his shtick was. But the point was, he's a brilliant guy, and he wrote this article, and what he was saying was that reinvention is a myth, that it's not practical, and in fact, it could be dangerous. So I wrote a reply.
Of course you did.
I couldn't. I sat with it for days. Like, I know Mark, and it's like, how do I do this? Another good Mark, right? And what I came up with was, whoa, reintegration, or what I called in another article, you can choose to reinvent at this upper level, and I don't mean higher, just upper level, where you reintegrate as in move the furniture around. You may even change your house, but you really don't change anything else. That's not radical reinvention. Radical reinvention takes guts, real guts, and real hanging on. And if any generation can do this, it's really the boomer generation, because we boomers have been brought to our knees. Now, I'm on the cusp, but I still consider myself in that generation because I act and I am like it. But we were brought to our knees in the Great Recession. So all the myths that we had about, we're this great generation, the boomers can do everything, nothing's going to knock us down, and we are a great generation.
So you're talking about the Great Recession in the early 2000s.
Yeah, and that throughout that next 7 to 8 years, 10 years, whatever it's been, knocked us down. Now, those are the forward edge of the boomers. But
I would throw 9/11 in there also. I think 9/11 just changed our psyche.
Exactly.
So the two together, I think, really took our sense of safety and our sense of inevitable success off the table.
Gone out. But it's such a gift, because it was such a phony bubble we were all in. So it forced us, like any radical reinvention should, to go soul deep, to say, who the heck am I? Why am I here? Where am I going? What am I supposed to be doing? And what really, truly matters? That is so classic of reinvention, of radical reinvention. The thing about midlife in reinvention is it's no different than when we were going from childhood to adolescent, or adolescent to adulthood. That in-between transition time, it's not like a rigid, it has to happen at age 40. No, it happens when you're ready for it. Even when you're not ready for it, it happens when it's going to happen. And sometimes it's really disruptive, and sometimes it's not. Some people will say, I haven't had a midlife crisis, but look at my red Jag outside that I just bought, right? That I can't afford or I can afford, and I stopped doing something else I should have been doing. It's all that kind of stuff that shows up on the surface. But the reality is it's much, much deeper, because it's the existential question that has to come at midlife. Now, what is midlife? As a gerontologist and adult development expertise, I say to me, and there's no hard edges like anything. I say 35 to like 70. It's or 40 to 70. Now, 70, 75, 35, 40, it varies. I had my first crisis in my 30s. And again, later on in my early 40s. So and I think I'm having them over and over, because we keep growing if we're willing to, but we have to go into the radical space. Now, radical means looking at everything in a whole new light. And we have to do that at every major point in our lives, especially now in these times where we're making critical choices, politically, career-wise, relationship-wise, everything-wise, even where we're going to live. We have to be very diligent and do our due diligence. And we need to do the deeper work, but not everybody can. So I'll have clients that come and they just want to change companies. Great. Or they just want to avoid a bastard boss and they want to move over here in the company or go up that direction.
I can't tell you how many bastard bosses I have to thank for new clients.
Exactly. But that's the reinvention at this level. It's not necessarily a deep dive into who do I want to be and what do I want to do for the rest of my life and what does life really mean. And for me, reinvention is not just for people in midlife. We reinvent all the way through. That's why I'm into agelessness. It's great to point out when we see age discrimination, and I do, and I always will, and I'll call it out and write about it. But it's really more important to me, anyway, that we now find the solutions. And to me, that's the ageless story, meaning that we are all ageless. And if we create a society or a world around that concept, then age is an asset, but it doesn't categorize any generation, because ageism is when you're told in your 20s and 30s, you're too young. You can't do that yet. You can't rise to that bullhunky. Same thing when you're in your 80s or 90s. Do you know my two closest, most beloved mentors and now friends are 101 and 6 months, and the other is 103. They are movers and shakers. You want to talk about vibrancy? I see them and the whole world lights up. They are changing the world still today, and they're not going to stop until they aren't here. Mm. So to me, it's ageless reinvention, and it's radical because you're making deep, deep changes. So for instance, when I left corporate, which was in 88, early 88, I think it was, somewhere in 88 anyway, I had come to a point, this story is so great. I'm sitting up with my feet up, no one's in the office, it's just me. I'm in the corner office, which I aimed for, at the top of the building of a major financial institution. And my feet are up there, and I've got a fuchsia enamel desk with brass trim, and I'm looking at it cracking up. What am I doing here? Why am I here? And I was a major change agent at that time, and or maybe still. But in any case, I'm looking at myself and looking at all this saying, okay, did you check off? Did you do everything you came for? Yes. Then what? What now? I was 38 at that time. And it was time to say, I'm checking out. I did it all. There's something else I'm called to do. That journey took a couple of years to figure out.
Right. So because one of the things I talk about the midlife crisis is often I think that the midlife crisis is the fact that we don't listen to that inner voice. It whispers at first. It nudges us. It shows us that something needs to change, and then we ignore it until life decides that we're going to do it. It's either internal or external. so take us through. You're 38 years old. You just have that thought in the corner office. What are those years like?
Those years were tough. I thought, I think what happened for me is I could do so much in so many different facets. I didn't have a clue what the heck to do. It wasn't as simple as I thought it would be to figure it out. But I also had the blessings because I'm a Sherpa to other people, I also say the Baba Yaga to light the way forward for other people. I had people doing that for me. I was very, very blessed. I have stumbled into greatness so many times. I became a protege of Dr. Deming, Dr. W. Edwards Deming, who was the godfather of the quality improvement and change management, et cetera, everything.
So what you're saying is you had really good mentors in your life,
Oh,
people you could talk to about this.
but I didn't have them before I left. That's what I'm trying to also stress. I learned about Dr. Deming's work. I took the initiative and had the balls, basically, excuse the expression, to track him down and say, I want to be with you. I need to learn what you are teaching and out there in the world. It took a lot of doing to do that. I had to convince NYU that I didn't want credit. I didn't want anything from them. I just wanted to be in that room with that man. This is a funny part. So I drive from Connecticut into New York. The course is going to be, he's down at NYU, downtown Wall Street area. And my car collapses, the tires go up, so weird stuff happening. And I'm not supposed to go, forget about it. Well, all of a sudden a guy comes by in a truck, I don't know, picks me up, takes me to the train. It's a long story. I get there, I get on the subway, I get downtown. I cannot get into the auditorium, right? I go up and I can't figure out, where do I go in? So, there are two big doors. I open the two big doors. Mark, I will never forget this, obviously. I walk in and the auditorium is slanted. You know how they are in a lot of these big rooms, right? And jam, people are in standing room only. And I look to my right and it's, Deming is at the podium talking and I'm to his left and the audience is ahead. He says to me, where did you come from? So I went, from Connecticut. No, where did you come from? And I cracked up. He said, we will talk. And I was part of that from then on. So it's that's what happens when you want to radically reinvent.
So hold on. So I have to slow this down for anybody who's listening in the car.
Yeah.
So you have the corner office. Did you just quit outright?
I made the decision to quit, but I knew that I had to protect I was running a big part of the company. I had to protect them first. So I stayed long enough to make sure they all got all the bonuses and that they were going to get.
So you built yourself an exit plan.
Yeah, I built myself an exit plan, but then the company, this was Equitable, and they were in the midst of a merger, about to be in a merger with Access. So you know what happens when that happens. Heads fell, heads rolled. People that I knew and had been working there for 30, 40 years, 50 years, maybe their whole life really, were chopped. So I looked at all that and this is not who I am. This is not what I'm about. I'm about the new world of business, not this garbage. And so that's when I said, okay, guys, see ya, I'm gone. So I got a non-compete, which was fabulous because it gave me the time to figure out who I was going to be and what I was going to do next.
But so I just want to, I really have to slow this down because you and I both talk to people who start to get a calling, and the terror of making a change, the terror of going out into the unknown is real. And often there's kids involved, there's elderly, there's responsibilities.
Justified. Oh, absolutely.
So
the first thing I ask people when they come to do the work that we do is to find out, are you in crisis mode? Or is it a financial need? Where are we? So I know how we're going to be working together. Do we have to ratchet up fast, or are we doing a slow deep dive? So you have to ask those questions. Yes, thank you for asking me that. And my mode is not necessarily what everybody else's mode. I've been leaping. That's why I'm a futurist. I keep leaping into the future my entire life. I started out as a preemie, so it's just going to be the way I am. I got to accept that finally. Not everybody can do that, but because we know how to do that, We also know how to do it the slower, gentle way, or the deeper way, or the fast, rush it way. I mean, there's so many different ways about this. But my point was that Buckminster Fuller had a concept that called right angle precession, PRE, precession. And it's so critically important for everybody that's considering reinventing or just for your life. And that was that we need to notice right angle precessions. I know that sounds like but it's really very simple. Think of the bumblebee, which is how he figured this out because he studied nature constantly, was that when the bumblebees are looking for honey, they're going down this path. It's their known path, like all of us, right? And then, whoops, what's that down there? Right angle, right into the heart of the flower and the nectar. If there's no real nectar there, what happens? Pull out, keep going. So we talked about right angle precession's meaning, and how I interpret it, is that you've got to check all those angles that come up and show up for you. You may decide not to go that direction, then pull back and keep going. But don't go, only like your partner. I'm on this path, it's linear, and I'm going to get to the end of it. No way. Check out those turns, because that's where the honey is.
My coach called them small bets. Make small bets. Go in, check it out. See, you don't have to throw yourself in, but go check out a class. Go listen to a lecture. Go watch a YouTube thing. Or start a little online business. And see what catches fire for you.
Exactly. And even after you go for those bets, there's really the right angle of really diving in. And you still have that opportunity to pull out. That's what people have to realize. There's no black and white. Obviously, if you're supporting a family and you got kids in college, there are different decisions that you're going to make than you could make maybe when you're 60 and you're in a different situation, or 70 or whatever. So you have to weigh all of that.
I made those decisions. That I had elderly parents who depended on me. I had an ex-wife and 2 kids who were on their way to college depending on me. And I made the decision to leave corporate life to become a coach, right? Did not know what I was in for, did not know about entrepreneurship, did not know any of that. I just knew my commitment to taking care of them. I made agreements with my ex. I looked in the bank to see how much I had to make sure that if I stumbled, that they were okay. Right. But I don't recommend that for a lot of people to do it the way I did it.
Right.
The calling was just way too strong for me. Exactly. But there's everything in between, staying and being miserable and aging in place and leaping. There's all ways in between to make those bets.
Exactly. But I think both of us, because we have done radical reinventions, have to let people know it's okay not to do that if it's not for you at this time. But be aware that we're all called to that kind of reinvention. It's up to you whether you follow that or not.
So what do you think stops people?
Really good hands too. You cannot do this alone.
What do you think stops people?
Fear. I mean, it's just big fear. It's fear of, what am I going to find out? What are people going to think that I'm even pursuing these different directions? It's so many different directions, but some of it is what we've introjected. We don't know even who we are. I mean, the whole idea of aging, it's not a liability. In fact, nowadays, I'm so excited about the future for all of us. Our age is an asset. We need skilled workers. We need knowledge workers. We need people with experience. We need the gray hairs. And it's happening. It's one of the greatest exciting things that I can see going. And the opportunities in the aging field for people who want to try out news is enormous. It's exploding. We don't have enough people for the number of positions that are available. I had one of those. Let me think. I had that note down somewhere. I thought I put it down, but I guess I didn't. But I mean, there's like so much opportunity. And I don't mean for people wiping out bedpans. We need them desperately, absolutely. But we need this in innovation, in technology, in healthcare. Every single area that feeds into this is going to feed the rest of the population as well. So there's room. No one has to think that it's over for them. And here's another story. The other night, my husband and I went to hear Art Garfunkel. I have not heard Art Garfunkel in forever. And, everybody, if there are younger people on the call, they may not know, but Bridge Over Troubled Waters was his first biggie with Paul Simon. And of course, it exploded them on the charts. So he came back, and I did not know this. He lost his voice about 6 to 10 years ago. I can't remember now. It was 6 years ago, maybe. So nobody knew that. But he loved singing so much. He started when he was 5, that he did the radical reinvention work he had to do, and the healing deep work he had to do to reclaim that voice and come out again.